How we doing, Denver? Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday to you as well, Garrett. How are things? How are things going?
We're in a heat wave. I think it's 105 degrees today, so
Feels like that at this point of the year, whether it is or isn't.
100%.
So we
Plus, I see we got an exciting power session today on custom report building with some emphasis on making better cash flow decisions. So,
yeah. So what I want to kind of talk about today is just a little bit some examples that I put together here is just kind of some off the wall items just to start looking at things, all things cash flow, and then kind of loop it into the cash flow forecast a little bit at the end here. But I guess
yeah, let's see what you got for us.
yeah, before we get started, I do want to throw this poll out there for everyone who's joined in. So if you take a second, just if you guys can answer that. Basically, what is your current comfort level with the report builder within ProNovos? So whether you've haven't been able to get in there too much with it, or you kind of played around, or maybe you're the resident expert at the company, but just kind of curious for everyone who's on for today, and how what's your level of expertise, right?
Yeah,
And
I
that way.
think I don't know what you've seen implementation, but I think we've seen, kind of a wide range of familiarity with the report builder. Obviously, it takes some time to get comfortable and get pretty in depth in there quickly. So
Mhm.
people are busy in
Yeah,
the summer, and we've seen people build a lot of reports, or people reach out and need some more training or a refresher. So
yeah. And if obviously if anyone has questions or want even a copy of the dashboard we put together today, we'll be more than willing to help out any way we can. Um, but yeah, just wanted to see what everyone's kind of comfort level is so far, and kind of how in depth we want to get today. Um, yeah, like Garrett had mentioned, the report builder is it's great. There's a lot of data in there as long as you can get in there and kind of find the information that you're looking for. But I'll kind of start off by showing kind of what I have put together for today. So within the analytics tool here, I created this cash report here, and it's simple in nature, and I think that's kind of where I wanted to go with it today. Was just kind of taking a look at some different metrics, some different ways of slicing the information. Some people may find some similarities with some of the other dashboards that we do have, like the executive dashboard, the project billing analysis, which we'll eventually cover with this here. But what I wanted to put together here was looking at the different areas of all things cash flow, right? So I wanted to start with having a section that can list out our cash based accounts, where we've got some date filters in play, where we can say, all right, as of May, here was our net cash for the month for each one of our different accounts. Here's the total balance as of the end of May, or I guess today, right? But we would then be able to kind of look back and say, all right, as of you know April, here was the net cash in and out the door, and then here was our cash positions as of the end of April, right? So just kind of putting in some different filters just to kind of play around with being able to kind of look back in time and see where these numbers have been. And then I have the year selector for the bottom two charts here. So essentially, I just took the operating account, kind of plotting it in here just to see kind of where our cash has been plus or minus over, in this case, looking at 2025, what each month, brought in, or what we spent, as a company, right, for that one specific account here. But then also, and I know I've gotten a couple questions, Garrett, I'm sure you've gotten this question at times too, when looking through the project billing analysis. Obviously that is for a specific job, right? Where we can see the three metrics of our, in the black here, our bill to date number, in the green are essentially our cash paid, and then in the yellow here, our year to date cost number. So what I did was just kind of plot this for all jobs for the year. So if I'm looking at 2025, we can kind of see what our cash in the door has been. Now, obviously, this is just looking at, total cash in, total billings out, and cost just for that year. So you may have some, we may have cash exceeding cost or billings, maybe because we had some invoices in December that got collected in January, and then our billings are catching up here. So I definitely have gotten this question a few times throughout training and implementation about seeing more of a global view of that same chart that we see in the project billing analysis. So like I said, comparing our cash in the door, month over month for the year, our billings, and then our costs for all of our jobs. I excluded the overhead jobs just for, looking at, the actual jobs that may have activity. But that's kind of my mentality there. And then kind of just putting in some simple pie charts for, the AR aging breakdown, AP, maybe adding in some filters for if I wanted to look up a certain customer or a certain vendor. If I want to see them all, obviously I can get rid of those and kind of see it at the company view, but also you can get into creating drill downs that can say, all right, for my 31 to 60 day bucket, what are the invoices that make up, right, that pie slice, right? Then, hey, here's the due date, here's, that bucket that it exists in, and then what is currently outstanding for each of those invoices. So, we could do the same for the AP side. Must not have tied it together, but having the ability to create those drill downs, filters, and just a couple different charts that can really give a pretty good picture of where we're at from a company level. So like I said, I tried to draw some inspiration around some of the dashboards that we already have in the system. So, cash flow forecast kind of played into this. The executive dashboard playing into the cash balances and the breakdowns here, and then that project billing analysis. So it's a cool way to, take some inspiration from a couple of different existing dashboards and kind of put them all into one combined report for maybe the executive team or the, accounting staff.
Yeah, that's specifically, we've gotten a lot of good feedback on that cash flow chart on the bottom right.
Yes.
So we see it took maybe about 3 months for it to break away from costs, and then we're, kind of ahead of the game and not chasing money. So we don't want to be underwater.
Right. So yeah, if anyone is, looking at this and, hey, maybe you want a copy of this, and obviously it can be tweaked a little bit for everyone specifically, but I can, get this set up in anyone's account that might want this as kind of a starting template. And then if we want to build it out further, we most certainly can. But getting into a little bit of the report builder itself. So basically what I started with was adding in a few of the existing data sets that we have out there. So I pulled the balance sheet data set for the cash balances and the cash flow by month section, AP and AR data sets for those two charts there. And then I created a custom data set with just some very basic stuff, right? Job, month, the paid amount, the billed amount, the cost, right? So that we can get that nice chart down here at the bottom. So if I were to start this from scratch, basically in the analytics tool here, we go to drafts, we go into create new draft. And what I'm showing is how to get those data sets started in here, right? So for the first couple ones that were just standard data sets with ProNovos, you would just go into this existing data set, into the data set folder. And the first one we picked was the balance sheet metrics here. So I just picked it, selected it, and that will give us our starting attributes and metrics. Now I did edit it a little bit just to trim it down and add a couple things here. So if you're looking at this and say, well, I've got my account, I've got my account type, I've got my credits and debits, But maybe I want to include something like, the month, being able to filter it by month or by year, right? In any of those data sets, we can click into the three dots, edit, and then we can go and find those additional date metrics. So you can either type it here, so month, right? And then I can either click and drag it or just double click it to include that in there. So you can take those existing data sets and trim them up any which way you want, but this will allow you a little bit more flexibility when it comes to date parameters or things of that nature, right? So adding in, data set one, we're just kind of going down the list, right? So to add a new data set, so I've got my balance sheet metrics, I can go to add data, existing data set, and now I want to pull my AP aging table, right? So we're going to do that for balance sheet AP aging. We'll do the same thing, existing data set, and then the accounts receivable aging table. So now we've got our cash, AP, AR, and then for the job one, this is where I did more of a custom data set where if I go into here, I go to add, and then I go into existing objects, right? So this is just me wanting to hand pick, just the job, the month, the year-to-date costs. So if I go into existing objects, I can then say, all right, I want the job. I want the month, right? And then if I want to switch to the actual numbers, right, just make sure you're switching it from attributes to metrics. And then I can type in my year-to-date, and I can find in my year-to-date billed amount, and then year-to-date job cost, right? And then for the paid amounts, it'll be under that find. Well, I guess if you just type in paid, we can find AR paid amount. So obviously knowing the names gives you a leg up on trying to find some of this stuff. If you, instead of, maybe I didn't know it was AR paid amount, for something like that, it's going to be under finance and accounting, AR. And if I go into the invoice section, that's where I can find that AR paid amount. So those are some of the, items that I used for this chart down here to give us our nice graph for the billings, the cost, and the amounts paid, right? So looking at, once I have those data sets created, so when I click, first thing, when you open this up, just click this button so that the icon looks like this. You just have to click it once. That just allows you to be able to move things around without having to snap it to the corners or have it auto size. For me personally, I like being able to control how big each of these charts are. Just makes it, I think, a little bit easier to size everything accordingly, right? So once you click it, you'll have a data report start, and that's where I started with this one. So basically, all I did here was put in my GL amount, my GL balance to date, and that's what's going to go here. Now I did rename this one, so if you wanted to, you can always right click and say, maybe I don't want to say GL balance. I want to say just simply cash to date. So I can right click, rename, and I can just call this cash to date. Right. And that way, if you just want it to look a little cleaner than maybe some of the standard names that are in there, then you can start, all you would need to do. So if I started a brand new one there, right, I want the accounts, I want my GL amount. So I'm just double clicking and then GL balance. Now all I did was just hand select a few of the accounts so that only those ones show up. So if you only wanted one account, you could simply right click, keep only, and then it would just show that one line in the report instead of maybe I don't need to include the savings or petty cash or payroll sweep accounts or anything like that. So in that case, I can kind of limit what's showing up here, right? Now, for the filters, for anyone who hasn't created those, you're just going to find the filter button at the top. 9 times out of 10, you're going to use that very first one. So this just gives you your filter option. So in my case, I picked month as my filter. So to create it, I'm just simply clicking and dragging month into that box. And now this is what's telling it, what do I want to filter? Which of these do I want to filter? So when I hit select, I'm picking and choosing which reports do I want to filter with the month filter. Right. So once I pick them, I can hit apply. And that's how you can tie like this month here or the year here. And that way you're not filtering everything on the page based on that month filter. Because maybe I don't want this to be only for 1 month. So that's why I have the year filter tied to that one, the month filter tied here. And that way you can control those separately. Right. So creating each of the filters are what I have up top, and it's just the same thing, right? Each time, green button, first option. You can change how they look in the little edit button at the top. There's a display style. So like this one, I had it as a search box. These ones I just simply made as a drop down. So once again, making it look a little bit easier to navigate rather than sometimes the checkbox or sliders can be a little bit much. So just going into that 3 dots display will allow you to pick what view you want that filter to look like. Okay. So then for each of these, you're just, when you want to add a new chart, so we added the first chart here. I want to get into a pie chart. Just going to find that first button here. Go down to your pie chart. And I just picked the first one here. So then to recreate that one, if I go find my AR table, I used my AR outstanding amount, and then I double clicked on the aging bucket. So then that will give us that same view, right? Now, if this one looks different just because I have it filtered, but you can see there, just clicking those two will now create my aging breakdown. Right, renaming them, just double click. Right, and now you've got it in there. And then now, if I want to drag this around, you can kind of move it, place it wherever makes sense. But you can create that one. Same thing with the AP breakdown, and then you've got your kind of bar chart look. So that's just going to be in your bar chart. This very first one's usually my go-to. And then for the line graph, I actually used in the line, I used actually the second one. You can use the first one as well. I guess just depends on kind of how you want it to look. For this one, probably makes sense to use the first one. So that way it's all just within the same kind of thresholds, size, everything there. So that's kind of how I got each of these started, was just clicking in here, line graph, and then for that chart, right, I have my custom data set. So I just put the months going across the bottom, year-to-date billings, year-to-date costs, right? And then I applied my year filter to it. Now, if you already set the filter and you're like, oops, I need to apply it to this one too, you can go into the 3 dots, select target. This one's called visualization 1. So I just go and find that, check it, apply, and we have our same graph there. Now we can throw in our cash paid amounts, adding in those other metrics, but that will at least get us started for creating some of these different reports in here. And I think, as Garrett mentioned, the more you get in here, the more you play with it, knowing where the data is mostly the battle. You know, we can color code these, or, you know, make some, you know, make it look nice. But I think having the data available and then being able to utilize it is going to be the biggest learning curve, if you will. Right. And then I guess to tie it back to, you know, hey, you know, we've got our report, we see our cash this month, we see our aging breakdowns, we see our jobs, how they're trending. Kind of going back to under financials, cash flow forecast. This is where, you know, we can see those balances, we can see where our invoices are kind of split out over those next 13 weeks. So now we can say we've got our report for our quick view. Now, if I want to go manage this a little bit further, I can get into my cash flow forecast. I can then see, you know, hey, which receivable invoices are scheduled to be paid next week. So I can click into it, see the list of AR invoices, and then if I want to manage those projected payment dates a little bit further, you most certainly could from there. And that way, if, hey, we're seeing this to be paid, you know, the first week of June, I can click it. It'll then update the report and then move that invoice out of the week of the 24th into the week of May 31st. So this is how you can kind of use the information in the dashboard that, you know, you build as your reporting tool, and then your cash flow forecast to kind of further manage it and kind of see how that looks week over week for those next 13 weeks. So we'll take some time here. I kind of summarize this a bit. Obviously, if we want to go more in depth with, you know, running through some examples for anyone who's curious on building these out a little bit more, obviously Garrett and I are more than willing to help out as need be. But I guess I want to open it up for a couple questions and just kind of see if this is something that you guys would like to have in your own account. You know, Garrett and I can make sure that we get this set up in there, and then if we need to do any sort of configurations specifically to your company's needs, we can do that as well. So yeah, we'll take the next couple minutes here. If you guys have questions, if there's other kinds of, you know, cash flow reporting needs that you may be already doing now, but I will take a second while anyone may be typing in any questions or anything like that. But just pulling up what our next power session, I believe it's on June 2nd. And we've got a pretty good one in store here for kind of what's next with ProNovos. So that one is I would say a must stop by and check it out. We'll obviously have these up on the website afterwards, but very exciting to show off some of the stuff that we've been working on behind the scenes.
Yeah, that'll be a good one. Maybe you want to extend that another 10 minutes or so.
For sure. So we'll give it another minute or two if you guys have questions, but I guess we can wrap things up here. Garrett, as always, thanks for being in and giving us some insights too. I know you know, the customer reports are, you know, I think a huge part of what allows you to make the program a little bit more of your own. But I think the level of detail you can get out of these is really cool.
Yeah, I like it. And you know, if you get in there, start building and hit a roadblock, just let us know. I'd be happy to jump on a call.
Absolutely. Well, we appreciate everyone who was able to join us today. We'll have the recording of this up on the website and on our YouTube page shortly after. So if you want to rewatch it or share it with someone else, they should be up there soon, but we appreciate everyone joining us for today.
Yeah, thanks all. Have a great Tuesday.
All right. Take care.
Bye.